I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
Damn it, you give Miguel his dead baby. Those breast surgery horror stories ain't gonna write themselves. Much like in 11/22/63, when King tackles a well-trodden subject, there time travel and here vampirism, he's usually gonna come up with something well outside the norm of convention. A vamp with a pilot's license, skylarking above the clouds and stopping through every podunk airfield to snag a complimentary beverage of the red stuff. Not bad. And even though we've been conditioned to know that the mystery behind what the cheekily named Dwight Renfield is up to will most assuredly be vampiric in nature, an ill-mannered tabloid journalist hot on his heels and grasping at a flowing black and red cape should make for a keen, investigative thriller with a supernatural twist. Instead, the Night Flier almost never takes off despite a perfectly cast lead, some well-realized gore courtesy of the mad geniuses at K&B, and a few scattered touches which occasionally pull this cinematic plane up from its freefall into middling oblivion. I couldn't help but chuckle when Miguel presented a phony FBI badge. Maybe you think he left his real one in Twin Peaks? Flier was one of those rare actors who could appear utterly contemptible on screen, yet project a relatable humanity which made us tolerate even while actively hating the characters he portrayed. His bitter, unscrupulous Richard Dees is a marvelous king antihero, and your classic example of an unlikely protagonist. In his dogged, often boozed-up pursuit of Renfield, we discover his brazen, always insensitive dismissal of anything resembling decorum or even decency. He's also quite adept at finding the vulnerability in antagonistic roles. We end up fearing for his safety even though he's done little to garner our sympathies. If only the players around him could be nearly as dynamic. I hate to scream favoritism, but director and co-writer Mark Pavia did end up marrying Julie Entwistle, and only someone falling head over heels could have let her play this part. She's not even bad, just vacant, ineffectual, and lacking in presence. Even when she's meant to be growing a spine and adapting to Flier's questionable methods, it rarely feels realistic. Meanwhile, Don Monahan's opportunistic editor tries for a slick, devious quality, but again, ends up a second, third stringer to the many bombastic heads of news organizations we've seen before. His proclamations about fatties in the supermarket line and giggling power trips simply don't land the way he hopes. Quite simply, with better actors, this probably could have worked. Pavia's handling of this material is fairly standard, but he's not entirely without skill. Little touches like King references to dairy or even snatches of dialogue, but particularly his eerie handling of an entranced older woman under the sway of a malevolent being hint at what might have been. We get glimpses at Renfield's backstory, but it's not spelled out, which indicates restraint. And that also ends up being a problem when only those who understand the rules of vampire lore get why there's a bunch of dirt in that black Cessna Skymaster. Pavia throws in just as many pointless flourishes, like a random bit of slow-mo early on, or hilariously ill-conceived moments, like Flier lighting up a cig right next to the pump jockey filling up his tank. That kind of bizarre decision-making will take anybody right out of a movie. When the film focuses entirely on Flier, it mostly works, though it still can't quite build up much headwind. An especially vivid sequence with a main accented native played by the fine John Bennis comes the closest to establishing a mood and tone of ominous menace. That, and the genuinely thrilling ending, where it appears Pavia finally woke up from behind the wheel and gifted us a number of stylish, freaky images which might have saved the previous hour. Unto itself, the final twist doesn't really add up, and even though they try to justify, Renfield's jaunting from one spot to another feels unlikely after his plane has been identified. Thanks to Flier and the ending, the Night Flier isn't entirely worthless, nor without the kind of humor King was going for. But with a stronger supporting cast and less taciturn direction, this might have made for a wickedly dark night of the soul. Happy Kingtober. Like and subscribe, and remember, there are other worlds than these.